Hi, thank you guys so much. It is a true honor to be here, especially among so many veterans. So, veterans, thank you guys so much for your service. So I'm going to kind of jump back just a little bit and tell you about why I joined. So, when I was about 5 years old, I'm going way, way back. So, when I was about five, I decided that I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher, like my very own kindergarten teacher. So, all through school, when anyone would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would always give the same answer, a kindergarten teacher. So, when I was graduating in May of 2001, I walked across stage, applied for college, got accepted into an elementary education program, and didn't think anything else about it. Enjoyed the rest of my summer. So my brother came home from college. He was his first year of college. So I have a brother who is um, a year older than I am. And then my sister's about a year and a half younger. So we were sitting there at our family home and just kind of enjoying the day. My parents weren't home, and we decided, oh, there's a vehicle coming through the driveway, and we live out in the middle of nowhere, very rural community of West Virginia. And so when we saw this car pull up, we were like, "Mom told you," and we were looking at my brother because he was the instigator. We were like, "Mom said no people over while she's at work." And this guy gets out and he looks very dapper and he walked to us and we were like, oh, that's an Army recruiter. So he comes in and he gives us the whole spiel about travel opportunities, educational benefits, everything about signing up, joining, how it was going to be so great. And instantly, my brother and I looked at each other and we were like, that's what we want to do. We're going to go in so that we can get our education paid for and be able to serve our country. Now, remember, this is May. Well, I think when we signed up, it was around July of 2001. My brother ended up leaving August of 2001 for basic training, and then I went on the delayed entry program in September 2001, the week after 9/11 had occurred. So it was during peacetime when we had signed up, didn't think anything of it. We were just planning on taking that financial burden off my parents and putting all three of us through college at the same time. Um, Obviously, we know what happened 9/11. So this is the week after. I'm scared, I'm nervous. I don't know what to expect, kind of like everybody else. The world had just gone nuts. And as I am leaving basic training. I had a army sergeant flying with me, and I was carrying this backpack on my back, and the strap broke, flipped up, knocked out my contact. Now I'm thinking I'm getting a new pair of glasses, maybe a new pair of contacts. If you were serving, you know exactly where I'm going with this. No, I get handed BCGs, birth control glasses. So I finished through basic training just fine. Move on to Fort Lee, quartermaster, supply clerk, and then leave and go to Fort Bliss out in El Paso, Texas. I get there, it's about February of 2002, and everything's going great. 9/11 had passed. We didn't think anything more of it. And everything, again, was just running so smoothly that I decide that I'm going to go ahead and re-enlist. So I'm in for 1 year. I initially just signed up for 2 years. So my 1 year had passed. And then I say, yep, I'm loving this. I'm going to go ahead and re-up. If and only if they give me Hawaii. And it just so happened by October of 2002, they get a job out in Hawaii, and I have my orders, thinking that I'm 19 years old. Yes, I get to travel the world finally, like he was saying. Until they tell me, by the way, we're going to have to rip up those orders because we're going to send you to a different part with just sand. I was a little upset about that because I was like, no, I want sand and water, like beach, not sand, Kuwait. So we end up in Kuwait February of 2003. And basically, we're waiting for all of our vehicles to get shipped over and just basically just kind of waiting it out for President Bush to officially declare war. So on March 20th of 2003, my unit falls in line. We are told just follow the convoy or the unit in front of you in this long convoy. Once we get to Baghdad, then we would split up. So sounds easy enough. We jump in line and we are just following. The first day that we were in country, it was going great. Again, just following the person in front of us didn't seem too hard. By the second day of being in the country, my unit, the 507th Maintenance, started to lag, fall behind. And eventually, my commander and my first sergeant, who we had both gotten while in Kuwait. So they gave us a new commander, which happened to be our old lieutenant from our unit. So we had somewhat of an idea of who he was. I mean, he wasn't our commander at the time, but we knew of him. And then the first sergeant, acting first sergeant, we had never even met. So we are going, they make that decision. Hey, we're going to cut our unit. 2/3 continue with the rest of the convoy. And then 31 of us and 17 vehicles would stay behind. And eventually, the 31 of us ended up getting so far behind. At one point, we were 19 hours behind the rest of that convoy. So if you think about that, that's like going to Florida. I don't know what the time span is, but I mean, that's a hefty distance to fall completely behind the rest of that convoy. We did not stop to eat, to do anything. I mean, we stopped to refuel, kind of gather our bearings, figure out where we were at. Unfortunately, the GPSs that we were given quit working. The handheld radio communication quit working. So my commander and first sergeant had paper maps, and we gave those to at least one person in each vehicle. At this point, I am in a 5-ton, the transfer case bus. I hop over into the Humvee with my first sergeant driving and my best friend, my best friend was driving. My first sergeant was in the passenger seat. So we are continuing on, trying to figure out where we are at. Again, like I said, we didn't stop to rest. I mean, to refuel, that was about it. I mean, I remember us stopping a few times just to use the restroom, but it was go, 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 go. Like we were on the move. By the morning of March 23rd, so 3 days of being in Iraq, and we look ahead of us and we see bright lights. And we think that we had found the rest of the unit. And we travel toward them as fast as we could. When we got up to it, we noticed that it was not. It was city lights, the city of Nazaria. My unit continued on. For whatever reason, we crossed the Euphrates River Bridge and we landed in that town. And again, it's about 6 a.m. Most of the Iraqis were still in bed at that time. But once they noticed, hey, there's, 17 vehicles rolling through here that should not be in this part of town, is when, we could see them start coming out. I remember we stopped at kind of a wide point. Again, tried to gather our bearings. and we noticed this white kind of S10 smaller pickup, and he was continuously passing us. And basically, what he was doing was gathering intel. He was trying to figure out what kind of weapons we had, how many were in each vehicle, and then he was relaying that back to the center of town. By time we continued up into the heavier part of so-called town, is when we were like, all right, nope, this isn't where we're supposed to be, because now we're starting to see all these Iraqi come out of their homes. Some of them are standing up on top of their rooftops. Some of them are standing literally just out in the open, and they were ready. They were there to mean business. I mean, we were not supposed to be there. We knew that. So the commander, first sergeant, made the decision again, let's turn around, let's haul butt back out of the city. In doing so, we heard that first dreaded gunshot. So, of course, we locked, we're loaded, we're ready. We were told, don't fire until they shoot first. Well, once we heard that, first shot go off, it was very quickly followed by the second. And then before we knew it, it was just a full-fledged ambush attack upon us. The entire city against at this point, there was 33 of us, because we ended up gathering 2 other soldiers who jumped in the back seat with me. I was about 100 pounds then. I'm only 5'3", I'm short. So I jump on top of the transmission hump just to make way, get everybody in, let's go. And we continued on. Like I said, my first sergeant was in the passenger seat, my best friend driving, and held the 2 men that was sitting beside me. And we were hit by an RPG, a rocket propelled grenade, on the right side of the vehicle. Lori, the driver, ended up losing control, and we slammed into the back of a disabled 18-wheeler. So once we hit that trailer, instantly we were done for. The Humvee was no match against that Humvee, or that trailer. It killed Lori, caused head trauma. She hit her head off of the steering wheel. And then the 3 men were all shot and killed. I was the only survivor. We're not exactly sure how, what caused me to black out, or at what point, since everyone in the vehicle had sadly passed. We have no indication other than just kind of military records of, people walking by and saying, yeah, they saw me, alive at this point, and then I was out. So we ended up, I guess, laying there. I was completely out of it. The Iraqis came around to determine who was KIA, killed in action, and which one of us were still alive. They noticed that I was knocked out, but I was still alive. So they removed the bodies of my comrades and took the 3 men along with, so in total we had 11 from my unit that were killed. So they took the 3 men and buried them outside of the hospital that I was found at, in a shallow grave. But they ended up taking myself and Lori. They drug us across the pavement and to one of Saddam's palaces that was nearby. Lori, of course, is still basically gone at this point, but her body was still twitching. But they ended up snapping my right arm and then taking like a metal pipe object and busting my lower tibia in my left leg. My back was broken at the 4th and 5th lumbar. We are not sure exactly how that occurred, but it was already at some point broken. So they then ended up taking myself as well as Lori to one of Saddam General Hospital that was there nearby. And that's where they did kind of another proof of life video. And it was basically showing me again, looked like I was asleep, but Lori's body, going through that phase. Um, from there, I woke up about, they're guessing about 3 hours after the ambush had occurred. And I remember trying to set up because as soon as I opened my eyes, I noticed that there are these Iraqi men standing over top of the bed that I was lying on. So I tried to move. I tried to jump, to jerk, to get away from them because instantly I know something's not right. Like these are not the people that I was in service with. And I was looking for any kind of familiar face, and I did not see it. So at that point, when I tried to move, is when I noticed I have absolutely no feeling from my waist down. Um, could not move. I couldn't move the right arm because it had been broken. And I had no feeling in the legs at all. So I didn't even know that they were still attached. They had my head kind of bandaged up, which I brought the rescue video, so we're going to watch that in a little bit. But in the video, you'll see that the head has a big laceration on it where they bandaged it. So I'm lying there and I'm starting to ask questions like, where am I? Where are my comrades? Why can't I move? What is going on? And of course, the more I asked, the less I received. I just couldn't get any kind of information from them, which I didn't expect to. But there was that chance. I was hoping. Um, I remember at one point during the captivity that they, moved me around the hospital quite a bit. And then they took me down to an operating room at the bottom. And once I got down there, they proceeded to put me over on top onto the operating room table. And I'm lying there and I'm looking up and I'm like, okay, now what? Because I'm not prepped for surgery. Like if any of you've had surgery, there's a process to it. So I'm lying there and I'm like, okay, nope, no IVs. I've got nothing going for me right now. And I just kind of look at them. I start begging them to please don't. Whatever they were about to do, just please don't. But one of the Iraqi men spoke a little bit of an English, broken English, so I could hear and understand just bits and pieces of his, conversation of what he was trying to say. But I remember him saying, the oxygen mask, and you have to count. And I thought, okay, but I can't. I can't. My nerves were shot. I was, through the roof of, just panic attack at this point because I didn't even know what they were about to do. And again, I just beg and plead them to just please stop. Just please leave me alone. Put me back on the bed. Return me to the Americans. It'll be okay. For whatever reason, they stopped. And they put me over on the little gurney that they carried me down on, and then took me back upstairs. Again, moved me around quite frequently so that I was never kind of aware of where I was at or, the surroundings. And then one day they told me they were going to put me in an ambulance and take me to an American checkpoint to return me. I didn't believe, you know what I mean? Like I did not believe that that was going to happen. But I can't move. I can't run from them. I can't escape. I can't do nothing. But they put me in the ambulance and away we went. We never reached an American checkpoint. Instead, we were fired upon. I don't know if that was ever where we were intended of going, but that's the reports that, they were given to the Americans. Um, but instead, I was taken to an abandoned part of town. So it was on the outskirts. The electricity had already been shut off, and there was nobody. When I say abandoned, it was an eerie feeling to hear absolutely nothing. No voices, no kids, no vehicles going up and down the road, um, no goats, no donkeys. Like there was just nothing. And they put me inside of this building and then they left me. And I watched as the sun went up and the sun went down. And I don't even know how many days I was lying there. And I thought to myself, okay, I can do this. Can't give up as much as I want to. I'm the only person at this point that can save me. And I think, all right, I got two options. I can yell and scream and make as much noise as I humanly can to see if there were any American forces on the outside of that building that maybe might hear me and come toward me. Or I could lie there in silence and fear that if I made any kind of noises, that it would draw the attention of, if any, the militiamen. And those were the hands that I did not want in. So at least with these men that I was with, that was kind of guarding me, it was almost kind of, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but almost like I was safe at that point because they were kind of protecting me. They were keeping me away from the bad. Eventually, I decide I'm not I'm not doing anything. I can't risk it. I'm just going to sit here and just hope and pray that those guys come back to get me. And eventually they did. And they took me back to the hospital and again moved me around. And at one point, I was literally out in the middle of the hallway, like not being hit. Like there was nothing about it, just me lying in the hallway with big windows all around me. And I thought, okay, this is weird. Something just doesn't feel right. Um, and then they took me and they put me inside of a little tiny hospital room. And in there with me that day were two Iraqis, one that was standing by the door and he kept locking it. He would go out, he would come back in, lock it. And he did that quite a few times. And then the guy that was standing over by the window, I just watched him and I could see like he was getting, I don't know, fidgety, like very antsy. Like I just knew something was about to happen. I just didn't know what. And this is on the night around midnight of April 1st. So I'm lying there and I hear helicopters and Humvees and tanks. And I'm hearing noises that I have not heard, well, since captivity. And I'm thinking, all right, that's the Americans. I can hear our vehicles. I could hear the bombs going off in the distance. I could hear gunshots. And I thought that they were there to take over the building. And I thought this is it. They don't know that I'm in there, and I'm done. The next thing that I know, and very quickly, it all happened very, very quickly, but inside of the hallway, I could hear them yelling, "Where is Private Lynch?" And at that moment, and even though it was in English, and I heard my name, I was petrified because I knew at that moment I was the target, whether this was good or bad, they were after me. But before long, like I said, it happened very, very quickly. Those two men were let out of the room, and there beside my bed stood Rangers and SEALs and PJs, Army, like they were all there. And the one that stood beside me was a PJ, and he ripped the American flag off of his uniform. and placed it in my left hand and said, "We're Americans and we're here to take you home." And I remember looking at them and saying, "Yeah, I'm an American soldier too." So I have the video here for you guys today. And this is the real raw footage. So the voices go up and down, so I apologize about that. But I'll let you watch.
Oh, what, everything down? Come right, come right. Is that right? Clear down right. Okay. Yeah, the flag. Look right, look right back. Okay. Okay, we got right in front of us. Okay, I got him. This is impressive. Scoop this back. The doctor, myself, Clifton, and Helmsford in here. That's what we're doing. Are you managing? Okay. Where does those windows go out to, Aaron? It's okay, it's okay. You know? You got that flag still? Still here with you, Jessica. I may not, won't go in right in front of us. Make sure we get a good count, guys, as she comes in. Bring your own. Are they here yet? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, all right. Smile. You smile for the family. So your folks is there. You go. You're doing great, Jessica. You're doing wonderful. Okay. Welcome back. Just like.
Hi. No, so that happened April 1st of 2003. From that point, they took me back to Kuwait and then on to Germany. Once I got to Germany, they were able to kind of do the full assessment of seeing exactly what they could figure out what was happening. They did determine that I did have the head laceration. The back was broken at the fourth and fifth lumbar. The the humerus, sorry, not the wrist, the humerus was snapped. So they placed a rod there. In the back, they put a cage, which is kind of just like a triangle shaped um, to keep the lumbars from collapsing on each other. And then the left tibia was broken, so they were able to go in and replace that with a rod as well. So when during the ambush, the right foot had gotten lodged underneath of the passenger seat. So we're assuming at some point, while I was unconscious, I had no way of stopping my body. So my body flew forward and ended up getting the foot lodged underneath of the seat. So the Iraqis, when they came around to get me out, they just pulled my foot out of it and ended up snapping the foot to the side. So the foot's held together with pins, rods, screws, plates. It's been fused the whole 9 yards. I just had my eighth operation on it to kind of repair everything. And sadly, that's one of the ones that we're just going to have to keep going in, breaking, and resetting. Um, my left femur was also broken. We have absolutely no idea of what happened to it, other than when I got to Germany, they determined that I had a 1940s era rod that was fit for a man and it was unsterilized. So the Iraqis, when I first got taken to the hospital during the unconscious state, they removed my femur bone. Again, no idea why. But they took out my femur and they replaced it with that 1940s era rod. So Germany was able to take that out and replace it with a clean, sterilized rod. Um, so that, and then of course, we won't get into it, but being a female, that occurred. Um, but I was 19 years old, almost 20. I was just a couple weeks shy of my 20th birthday. And I weighed 76 pounds when I was rescued. They did not give me any food, no water. I was given about 4 ounces of orange juice to last me. So I spent 2 weeks in Germany, kind of, stabilizing basically. They were able to do a few of the surgeries, but we determined that that had to have been the reason, the left femur, that had to be the reason that they were wanting to amputate the leg. And again, for whatever miracle, they did not. I still have no feeling in my left leg, but I'm okay with it because at least I still have it and I'm still able to walk. I do have what's known as foot drop, which is where you cannot pick your foot up and down to walk. So I can't wear high heels or sandals or flip flops or anything like that. But again, I don't stress it. I'm okay. Um, so from that point, from Germany, they took me to Walter Reed Army Medical Center, which is or was the old one that was stationed down in DC. So they've relocated it now. It's in Maryland. But I stayed there from mid-April until the end of July. Again, just going through all kinds of surgeries, PT, OT, just kind of rebuilding everything. But one of the strong messages that I want to tell you guys is to never give up, no matter what life throws at you. Because let's face it, we all struggle with something. We are all going through some kind of obstacles or struggles, or, whether it's financial, whether it's, I don't know, marriage or schooling, whatever, we are all dealing with a lot right now. So whatever it is that is on your heart, don't give up. And I don't say that to compare your story with mine, because we don't do that. Veterans, if you are in here, and even if you're not a veteran, doesn't matter. We all have stories. It's how you deal with it and what you do to overcome it. So lean on someone that you can trust. Thankfully for me, I had a huge support system. I was one of those ones that I could call anybody, anyone in my family, I should say, and I knew that they were going to be there. So if I had a bad day where I did not want to go on, or whether the pain was so bad, I knew that I had people that I could trust and rely on. All right. So from that point, I decided, you know what? I'm going back to school. I got to do something with my life because if I don't, then I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to wallow and self pity and not do anything. I went back, got my elementary education degree, and then continued on and went and did my master's degree in communication. I now hold the position of West Virginia's Department of Veterans Assistance, the women's coordinator for them. And I plan to continue just continuing to advocate to get my message out. And even if it's not my story, I just mean the perseverance side of it, to continue telling, about our fallen, keeping their stories alive and the memories. And I know every single person in here has gone through that. I do want to say that my brother did 6 years. He continued on and served 2 in Afghanistan and did 5 tours in Iraq. He eventually ended up getting out in 2008 and basically to start a family. He wanted to kind of have a slower pace of a lifestyle, but then ended up going into the sheriff's department and chasing bad guys. So, whatever his looking out of slower pace. But he's doing great. And then my sister, absolutely wonderful, and ended up having 3 beautiful baby girls. There we go. I do have my daughter here with me today, and she's been a huge reason that continues to cause me to continue with that perseverance attitude. I can't give up because I know she's looking at me. All right, so we have about 17 minutes. I want to kind of take a break, see if anyone has any questions, and then we'll jump back into it. But they want to make sure see if anybody had any questions.
If you would like to ask Jessica a question, please come up to the microphone up front so everybody in the audience can hear.
Now, on the film, it looked like once they found you and got you on the gurney, it looked like one of the soldiers grabbed hold of your hand and refused to let it go till you got to Germany.
Yeah. And I will never forget the men that were there that night, even though I don't know their names. It's been 21 years. I don't remember their names. A lot of them wanted to stay kind of anonymous. That's just not who they are. They were there to do a job. They went in, got their job done, and then continued on. Most of them obviously are out at this point. But yeah, there was a lot happening in those videos. There is a longer version, which is almost, I think, 20 minutes long. Obviously, we didn't want to play that, but it is on YouTube. Quite a few of them actually, but it basically boils down to this one. There are some that they, added some sound effects and stuff in the background, but this one is the actual raw, real footage. Let me see. So the night that they came in to get me, a SEAL team, and I will never forget this either, but one of the members had contacted me and said, "Hey, is it okay if I write you a letter?" And I was like, "Sure." I get those kind of things all the time. I didn't think that he knew anything or had any kind of real relevant information. I thought he was just another one that had served. Again, I wasn't taken away from him serving, but I didn't know that he was actually in part of the task that he was. But he wrote the letter and he says, "Don't open it until you are completely ready." And that intrigued me. And I thought, okay, there's got to be something good in there. So now I want to read it, but I don't want to read it. But oh, I have to read it. So, like an idiot, I read it, and he had detailed everything that he had saw that night, and it included him making his way as they were doing the surveying outside of the building, and him falling into the shallow graves that my comrades were buried in. And he said, as he got up, and I'm not going to go into all details, but he said when he got up, he knew that he had found Lori, because as he was trying to stand back up out of the grave, a bunch of her hair came up, and he says, "But I just want you to know that we found your friend, and we are bringing her home." So, as tough as it was for me to go through step by step and read everything in his letter, and I still have that to this day. Um, and I even sent it to Lori's family and said the same thing. Now, don't read it until you are completely ready to know what was inside of that information or inside of that letter. And of course, they did what I did, and they read it. And they said, as much as they hated to hear it and could visualize it, they were so thankful that they did, because again, they knew that Lori was being brought home. So that's just another part of what our men and women do. And as horrible as it is, and you've got stories like mine on this side that are happy tears, and then you also have the other ones, like bringing home the bodies of my 11 comrades. So again, I just want to say thank you so much to every single veteran that is here today. Because without you, and again, it doesn't matter if you did anything as major as what I went through or not, does not matter. You were all over there. You served in some way or another. And I have to just say thank you so much for your service, because it truly takes each and every one of us to do that part. All right, so we are winding down. So I know you guys are wanting to get out of here, but again, thank you guys so much again from the bottom of my heart. I will be sticking around for a little bit. Do you have a question? Yeah, absolutely. If you have a question, by all means.
It's not really a question. I just wanted to tell you, you were an inspiration to me because I was stationed in Iraq on the night you were rescued. We were like all pulling for you. I was special operations in Erbil, northern Iraq. We were the spare. So I launched the helicopters that were on the mission to get you.
Thank you.
I'm a helicopter maintainer.
Thank you.
So I was, I think, the second female in Iraq on the ground in the whole war. I think we got there way before the go order in February. And I wanted to tell you, we were all like super pulling for you.
Thank you.
We were all praying and making sure that we did everything right to make sure we launched out on time. And I was like, think of one of 5 women in my unit that, well, not my unit, but like almost on the whole base. There weren't many of us. And so for women, it was hard for me retiring and like accepting what I had done in the military as a good thing.
Yeah.
And so seeing what you did made it like, it was inspiration for me and an inspiration for all the women that I have worked with. And it made it like, it made it that it made me proud that I was a female, not just in the military, but also a female in the military. So thank you.
Thank you. No, honestly, thank you. And then she just brought up, so I know I'm I gotta let you guys get out of here. But so one of the things, kind of going back to what she was saying, is when I did return home and I was able to finally talk, because when you're in the military, you're not supposed to accept gifts and you're not supposed to talk. So I think it was probably around November of 2003. So I'd been home for a little bit of time. The stories had already kind of circulated. The media went crazy with it. And it was hard on me personally because of the way that the media had treated me. I was dealing with everything from getting blamed for getting my unit lost. I wasn't driving, I was a POC. Um, like there was just nothing to what they were saying had any kind of accuracy. It was just that since I was the first one that was brought back, that was rescued, um, and I'm not sure, like, we were told that I was the first female prisoner of war to have been rescued since World War II. Now, I know that most of you are saying, but wait, we've had female prisoner of wars before. Yes, yes, we absolutely have. We had two of them, Melissa and Rhonda, in the 90s, the first Gulf. But what I was told was that they were considered released, not rescued. So a lot of when you look up any kind of the, I guess, bio of me, it will state the first rescued since the first ever of a woman, the first POW rescued since World War II. But yeah, it was hard coming home to hear how many people were bashing and blaming me for everything that my unit had went through. So now it's kind of a running joke with Ryan of, I sent him a text yesterday when you guys were down at the amphitheater. Okay, most of you were. And we were standing in here and I was like, I'm lost. And he's like, again? Really? And I was like, yeah, apparently, because I don't know where I'm going and there's nothing happening up here. Um, so, and then on my way here, of course, like I said, I'm from West Virginia and it was about a good 10-hour drive anyway. I veered a little too far to the left and made it like an extra several hours, 3 to be exact, but we're not really counting that. So then he got me on that one too. It was like a lost again. And I was like, I fell right into that one. No, I was not driving during the ambush. No, I did not have maps. No, I did not get my unit lost. But that was one of the things that I can look back at now and say, you know what? At least I can joke about it. I can make fun of myself. I can do all these things that are a healing process. So again, thank you all so much. Remember to smile, be kind to one another, as they say, and never give up on anything that you want to kind of overcome. And thank you again so much.
Thank you, Jessica.